Imagine standing on a hill overlooking a valley. You can see the river, the fields, the distant settlement. You know the landscape because you have walked across it. But once you leave, it exists only in memory. For most of human history, every journey depended upon experience. Every path had to be learned, every landmark remembered, until someone attempted something extraordinary. They pressed an entire landscape into clay, not as art, not as decoration, but as information. The first maps were not created by explorers searching for distant lands. They were created because civilization had become too large to remember. Fields needed boundaries, canals required maintenance, storehouses depended upon organized agriculture, cities demanded planning. As settlements expanded, the landscape became increasingly difficult to manage through memory alone. Officials needed to know where a field began and where it ended. Farmers needed to understand irrigation channels that stretched across the plain. Administrators needed reliable ways to describe land without walking it. A map was no longer simply a picture. It became a practical tool, one capable of organizing people, resources, and the land they depended upon. One of the earliest surviving maps appears on a small clay tablet from ancient Mesopotamia. Its lines are simple, its symbols are few, yet within those marks lies something remarkable. The tablet does not attempt to capture every detail. It records only what matters: canals, fields, buildings, boundaries. It transforms a real place into an idea that can be carried, studied, and shared. For the first time, a place existed in two forms: the land itself and its representation. Distance could now be examined without taking a single step. A field could be discussed without standing inside it. Knowledge had begun to separate itself from physical experience. Every map begins with a simple question: where are we? But hidden within that question is another. How do we make sense of the world around us? A map does not merely describe a landscape. It changes the way people think about it. The ground beneath our feet becomes something that can be measured, compared, divided, shared. Land is no longer experienced only through movement. It can now be understood through symbols. The landscape itself becomes information. A few lines pressed into clay allowed knowledge of a place to travel farther than the people who first walked it. Today, we unfold maps in our hands. We navigate with satellites orbiting far above the Earth. We travel confidently through places we have never visited. Yet every map we use belongs to the same idea: that a place can be understood without being seen. Thousands of years ago, somewhere in ancient Mesopotamia, someone pressed a handful of lines into wet clay. They were not creating a masterpiece. They were solving a practical problem. But in doing so, they changed something fundamental. The world was no longer only something people lived within. It became something they could describe, preserve, and share. Every map ever drawn, from parchment to paper, from paper to digital screens, follows that same tradition. It began with a simple desire to understand where things were. And from that desire came one of humanity's greatest inventions: a way of carrying the world in the palm of a hand.